What's the difference between toxic habits and the cycle of abuse? And how do you know that you are in a toxic relationship versus an abusive relationship? Well, today I'm going to go into that. Now, it's important to remember that the key difference between a toxic and an abusive relationship is that a toxic relationship, it isn't a power dynamic. There isn't someone in control and the other person submitting to that. Whereas in an abusive relationship, there's always someone in control. The abuser will oftentimes manipulate the one being abused into believing that they are the villain. The abuser always is calculated in their approach. And you can also see a cycle, a predictable cycle that happens over and over and over again. See, in an abusive relationship, it starts off with love bombing. That person becomes the person of your dreams. They are everything you ever wanted in your life. They are just so sweet and romantic and just kind, and they seem to know exactly what to do in the way you need them to do it. They seem to know how to love you the right way. Then, with time, sometimes it's a little bit of time, sometimes it's a lot of time, but with time you start to see this person displaying really toxic habits. The toxic habits start off small at first. These are the red flags that you see in the beginning of the relationship, usually between the first to the third month. And these toxic habits start getting worse and worse and worse with time. They start building into abuse. The toxic habits also tend to be highly manipulative to try to gain more and more control over you. So for example, maybe the person wants to track your phone location. And anytime you say that you're going to be at a certain location at a certain time, if you are not there exactly at the time that you said that you're going to be, they blow up at you. They make these false accusations that you're out doing something that you shouldn't be doing, even if maybe you were just stuck in traffic. You see this getting worse and worse and worse with time, and they start to control you in other ways. Abusers will also isolate. So what they do is they want to isolate their victims, so maybe they start turning you against your friends or your friends against you. Maybe every time you go out with friends, they get angry at you for not spending more time with them. Maybe they accuse you of putting your friends in front of them, even though you spend so much time with your partner. It gets to the point where they have so much drama every time you go out that you don't even want to go out anymore, and you start to lose your friendships. Then they start doing it towards your family members. Either they buddy up with certain family members and start talking poorly behind your back to turn your family members against you, or they start to get upset at you for being around your family, for having a close relationship. Maybe they make you feel guilty or make you feel like you're doing something wrong. Maybe they claim that you have mommy or daddy issues. Maybe they say condescending things about your brothers or your sisters or your cousins. Their goal is to have you no longer be around your family as often, or to have your family look down on you, or you look down on your family. They try to put a wedge between that because they want you to be completely alone. They want everyone else against you and you to be alone. This is why they do these. It's very calculated. It's very manipulative. An abuser will also say and do things to make you feel like you're always at fault. They lack self-reflection. They twist different arguments so that you feel like you're responsible for their actions. They make you feel guilty for absolutely everything. And if you do something completely reasonable, like maybe one of your parents got sick and you have to go over and take care of them for a little bit, they make you feel like you're the problem by saying things like, "Oh, you're abandoning me." They make you feel like you shouldn't even do things like that, take care of others, that you should only take care of them. Abusers are extremely manipulative, extremely calculated, and they can also be very vindictive. A lot of abusers will do different things to scare you into submission. Now, this is not in all cases, but in some cases they'll do that. They'll threaten to take your kids away, or maybe they'll threaten to tell the whole family about how crazy you are. But what they fail to recognize is that they push you to the point of breaking over and over and over again, and the moment you react, they do something like record you to be able to use as a weapon against you. Then you feel like a horrible person, you feel guilty, you feel like you're the problem, but this was the abuser's intent the entire time. See, in an abusive relationship, it's all about control, and it's all extremely calculated with the approach. If you've been in one of these relationships, I'd love to hear about your experience in the comment section below. In an abusive relationship, the abuser has their best interests in mind. They don't care about you. They don't care about your mental health. They don't care about your well-being. They'll pretend to care about you, but in the end, they are extremely selfish with their approach. Now, in a toxic relationship, that's not the case. The person genuinely cares about you, Maybe they struggle with some selfishness, but overall they genuinely want what's best for you. You see that there are extreme highs and extreme lows, but it's not in a continuous cycle. In a toxic relationship, you'll see that the person tries to communicate to you, but does it in a very unhealthy way. And you'll notice that there isn't so much a lack of self-reflection, there's just a lack of self-control when it comes to certain things that they should genuinely work on. When it comes to a toxic relationship, both parties don't really listen to each other. No one's in power. It's just two people butting heads all the time. And in a toxic relationship, there might be abusive habits, but it's not the dynamic of an abuser and someone who's being abused. It's just someone who needs to work on their toxic habits because it's causing pain, it's causing harm. Just like in an abusive relationship, a toxic relationship is not emotionally safe. Now I'm going to go into these things further in future videos, so be sure to follow so that you don't miss any of my content. In the end, when we look at toxic versus abusive relationships, there are a lot of similarities, but there are some key differences. The first key difference is that it's not in the form of a cycle. The second key difference is that one person is not always in control and the other person is not always having to submit. Toxic relationships and abusive relationships can both be very destructive, but in an abusive relationship, abusers don't change. In a toxic relationship, toxic people can change. Abusive relationships lack empathy. The abuser lacks empathy. In a toxic relationship, the person genuinely has empathy, they're just having trouble navigating through their toxic habits. Toxic relationships can become healthier. Abusive relationships, they don't. They just become more and more destructive as time goes on.